I will update my settings over here. Welcome to Friday Night Live with Paul Glasgow of Legally Armed America. And let's see if I can find my live stream over here so that I can keep up with you guys' comments and whatnot. Here we go. And let me grab where is it? I have something over here. I'll wait for a couple of you guys to come rolling in the room here. Grab a cold beer if you got one. I will drink one. It's my first beer. I wish it was my fifth beer after today. Long day. Friday. For those of us that work, I know a lot of us are all in the same boat, that we actually earn our money for a living. Mr. F&H, what's going on? Raymond L, what's happening? Flatbed Trucker, what's going on from Northeast Pennsylvania? Good to see you, bud. E-Rock, Little Klondike Outdoors, what's up, dude? Happy Friday to you as well. Jason Robbins, what's going on, Jason? Long time no see, man. Derek, yo, what's happening? Happy Friday from Earthbound Misfit. Good to see you as well. A lot of stuff I want to try to go over today and tonight. Uploaded a couple of videos today that I worked on last night and a little bit today as well. And let me turn this light up just a little bit. Yeah, it's kind of bad light. Alec Baldwin videos. I uploaded 2 Alec Baldwin videos. One of them was, and I can't touch the it's the stupidest thing. I can't touch a firearm on a live stream or YouTube will shut my stream down. So I would show you the single action Army revolver that I used in a video about Alec Baldwin earlier, but unfortunately I'm not able to, so I can't touch it. So you have to go look at my videos to see what it was all about. Pretty interesting videos. I tried to show essentially the mechanism of how a single action Army revolver works, which is essentially what Alec Baldwin was using. He was using a Pietta model. Pietta is a company out of Italy, I believe. Been around for about 50 years. They make a lot of movie type reproduction firearms. I say movie type, ones that are used in movies a lot, but they're not specifically for movies. They're actually firearms. They're not prop guns. As I state in one of the videos, a lot of people keep referring to the gun Alec Baldwin used as a prop gun. It is not a prop gun. It was used as a prop in a movie, but it's not by definition a prop gun. A prop gun is a non-firing firearm. You don't need an FFL to get one. You can buy it off of eBay or anywhere else you want to. It's just like anything else. It's essentially a toy, a very nice toy. It's meant to look like an actual firearm, but it is not one. It's not a working firearm. It cannot even be modified as a working firearm. It's essentially just parts that are slapped together. Whereas the firearm, the revolver that Alec Baldwin used, was an actual FFL delivered firearm from Pietta. Pietta they're really known for their replicas of the Colt single action Army, and that's the one that I showed in the video. So I described the cocking mechanism, how the hammer can't fall on its own, things like that. So good videos. If you get a chance, go look at them. Pretty interesting. I actually enjoyed making them. I did a reaction video to a portion of Alec Baldwin's interview. That was kind of interesting too, to see a person who knows they're wrong, who knows they're guilty, but they know that they can summon the news media to do their bidding for them. It was pretty disgusting to watch his interview because he wasn't doing it for anything other than to potentially taint a potential jury down the road that will be selected for his trial, because he will go to trial over what happened, if not murder, manslaughter. So yeah, very, very interesting how he managed to get the media to do his bidding. Because I can promise you his attorneys probably put him up to that so that they could start getting public opinion in his favor, or at least attempting to. I don't think the interview helped him any. I honestly don't. If you watch the video, my React video too, you'll probably see the same thing. He came across as very actually kind of accusing the female that he shot of being partly to blame. In other words, why did you aim the gun at this person? Well, she told me to. In other words, not my fault. It wasn't my response. Basically, he's saying it wasn't my responsibility to check the gun to see if it was safe or whatever. And it wasn't my responsibility to determine where to aim the firearm because the lady who I shot told me to aim it there, so I had to. Really just evading any kind of blame or responsibility whatsoever. Pretty sickening to see a grown man do something like that. But I guess if you're faced with prison time, it's the kind of thing you do, I suppose. I've never been in that situation. Alec Baldwin has actually shot one more person than I have, and he's actually killed one more person than I have. So I've never been and hope to never be in a situation like Alec Baldwin, knowing that I'm looking at prison time. So who knows what you do to keep yourself out of prison, right? So I don't know. Let me not judge him as for why he's doing these interviews. But from a person on the outside looking in, it's just kind of sickening to watch it. The Michigan school shooting that we had, Oxford, Michigan, 15-year-old shot. For now, I believe we know that, was it 5 people that he murdered? I don't seem to have that right now, but I want to point something out. And yes, it's that time of year where, I say that time of year, it's the only time of year since I've had my book, but this is that time that I'm going to promote my book. If you haven't gotten a copy of my book, How to Make a Monster, you can get it in hardcover or you can get it in paperback. This happens to be a hardcover. I talk about rampage shooters, what the media describes as mass killers, school shooters, whatever you want to call them. I talk about everything that I believe through my extensive couple of years of research would cause a person to, this is a table of contents, obviously, that may or may not cause a person to kill somebody. I call it the Devil's Triangle. And what I mean by that is you have, when I bore down to try to find the root cause analysis of why young people, and it's mostly young people, why they suddenly decide to want to kill groups of people, I know that it's not the gun. I don't understand why that's so hard for others to discern, but I know that. So I figured, let me find the reason. And I found the reason, and I wrote the book about it. The most common things that kept coming up were broken homes. What I mean by that is abused kids, fatherless homes, sexually or physically abused kids, verbally abused kids, just numbers of things like that. Again, single parent households was a big one. Fatherless homes was the biggest by far, fatherless homes. So that was one of the components of the Devil's Triangle. Children being bullied in school, and not just being bullied, being ignored when they're being bullied, and teachers, administrators, even other kids looking the other way and acting like they didn't see anything. And in fact, some cases, teachers and administrators taking part in the bullying leaves a child out on an island that they feel totally alone and isolated. And last but not least, over-medicating our youth. So we have an abused child or a child from a broken home. They enter into a state of depression, or they have issues in school. The school, because of the old laws or the old policies of No Child Left Behind, the teachers would tell them they need to be medicated. They would over-medicate these children with drugs that actually made them suicidal and homicidal and manic. And then they're bullied on top of that. And all these commonalities came together and pointed to the same thing anytime there's a school shooting. Why am I bringing all this up? Yeah, of course, I want to sell my book. How to Make a Monster is available at howtomakeamonster.com. But this Michigan shooting, you tell me that this child does not fall into the categories in my book. Now, it appears that the parents are still together. James and Jennifer Crumbley are his parents. They do appear to still be together. They are actually on the run right now, if you have not heard. They were going to be, let's see, charged and arraigned today. They were supposed to be arraigned today. At 4 o'clock today, they were supposed to be arraigned. But they, and actually charged with involuntary manslaughter. But they stopped communicating with their attorney and are now considered to be on the run, and a be on the lookout has been issued for them. That's strange, very strange. More on that here in a minute. So while the family unit does appear to be together, being together does not always mean a good family, a good home, a good setting for a child to be raised in. So the child could still be being abused. I mean, we've seen where parents together are abusing children together, physically, sexually, mentally, all that good stuff. So they could very well be abusive parents. I'm not casting aspersion on that because I do not know that. I'm just saying they could still fall into the category of a broken home. I just don't know any of the details on that. However, probably bullied based on some of the things that he states. This is coming from the child, Ethan Crumbley. But this is where I am pretty sure this young man is on SSRIs or some kind of a mood-altering drug. It was revealed that on the morning of the shooting, a teacher found a note on Ethan's desk that read the following, and this is disturbing. This is hard to read to know that a 15-year-old thinks this. The note read, "The thoughts won't stop. Help me." The note also read, "My life is useless and the world is dead." Now, I get that we're talking about a 15-year-old boy with raging hormones. I get that. But we all were there. I didn't want to shoot people in school. I didn't want to mow people down. That wasn't something that was on my to-do list. So we can't blame raging hormones on a child saying my life is useless and the world is dead, and then a couple hours later trying to kill a whole bunch of people and succeeding at killing some of those people. But a child thinking that the thoughts or the phrase, "the thoughts won't stop, help me." Guys, I will go out on a limb and say I will guarantee this child is on mood-altering drugs. I will guarantee that. I realize some people can be born and have an issue with suicidal thoughts, homicidal thoughts on their own. They don't have to have mood-altering drugs or psychotropic drugs for that reason. I get that. I understand that. I'm not saying that the only time somebody wants to kill somebody or themselves is when they're on psychotropic drugs. That's not what I'm saying, or SSRIs or whatever. What I'm saying is it's very rare. It's still rare. It's not a normal thing. With this boy saying the thoughts won't stop, that tells me that he's got these thoughts in his head that are one of the number one black box warnings of SSRIs and almost every single mood-altering drug out there. And especially him saying his life is useless and the world is dead. He is depressed. He's manic. All symptoms of the drugs that are prescribed to these kids for ADD, ADHD, or whatever. So again, I cover all of that in my book. I have, just so you guys, 54 footnotes in this book. Excuse me, my nose always seems to be itching whenever if you'll notice, 254 footnotes. I'm not just spouting my opinion in this book. I'm trying to be as truthful as I can and point out that there is a legitimate problem in this country and we're ignoring it. And I say we, I'm speaking in general, guys. I mean, us in the gun community, we think a little bit different. I do think we think a little bit more common sense oriented, if you will. But there's a huge number of people out there that just don't have that gift, apparently. And when there's a school shooting like this, the first thing they say is easy access to guns. It's the guns. Well, the media spoon feeds these people, and these are group thinking people, probably a little bit dim witted and not very smart. So it's easy to control them. That's the same person that'll put two masks on to go jogging. It's easy to control that person. They're not very smart, very little common sense, and very controllable. When we have that kind of component involved, and the person can't think on their own, and they're waiting for their next marching order, so to speak, when you tell them that guns are the problem, they're not looking for anything else. Number one, they're too lazy to look for the real problem. They don't know how to seek out a root cause, because that would require a little bit of common sense and some, deducing of what issues might be out there. They're too lazy to do that, and they don't have, in many cases, the ability to do that. Look, when you're spoon-fed information and what you're supposed to believe and what you're supposed to think and say all the time, when you're constantly spoon-fed that, you lose the ability to think on your own. I shouldn't say it like that. I don't think you lose the actual ability. You just get so used to not having to think on your own that it's so much easier to just log onto your Facebook account or turn the TV on to whatever crazy news network that you might watch and see what they think about a particular topic. Because it's too much work. I mean, everybody else, number one, we have life. I understand that people have life, children, jobs that they probably hate, jobs that you might like. They just take up a lot of your time. But things are happening in people's lives. So I get that sometimes it's easier to just let somebody else think for you. But we shouldn't do that, because what we're doing is we're allowing a certain group of people out there to blame guns unnecessarily and wrongfully. And we'll never fix the problem. If we don't seek out the true problem and we're not honest about trying to find out what the actual problem is, how in the heck do you ever solve it? If you can't ever discover the problem, how in the world do you fix it? How do you know there's a problem if you don't seek it out? If it's that easy to simply say, oh, well, guns must be the problem because that's what the headline said, you aren't looking for the real problem because you think you already know it. You think somebody else already found the problem. I did a lot of work to put the book together because I know guns aren't the problem. And I'm like, okay, this is more than a coincidence that all these young people keep wanting to shoot schools up, and they didn't do it before. If you go look at all the dates that all these things are happening, No Child Left Behind was a horrible, horrible policy by George Bush. An absolutely horrible policy. What it did is it started the standardized testing, and it started making teachers, instead of them teaching the student in the way they needed to learn, they learned how to teach a child to pass that test. None of the other fundamental things in education were being taught. It was simply what's on the test. That's what we're teaching. If you picked up something along the way that was helpful or useful in education, good for you. But that's not what the teacher was setting out to do. And the teachers were being graded, if you will, rewarded or penalized based on those test scores. So now you went from, okay, you got a problem child in the classroom, and he's a little bit disruptive. No big deal. The teacher just puts him in the back of the room, kind of ignores him, gives him a failing grade, or passes him because she doesn't want to deal with him again next year. No big deal. Now with No Child Left Behind, now these teachers, the money they took home to feed their families was now being affected by that kid sitting in the back. So now you couldn't just pass him. You couldn't just fail him. You needed that kid to pass that test, that standardized test that you were going to be giving. Or the federal government was going to withhold money to the state for that particular school. The state was not going to award that school X amount of dollars. Excuse me. It would be considered a failing state, which meant that some of the things that would have gone on to the teachers in terms of pay raises and whatever, those teachers now missed out on that. So now you might have gone from what you thought you would normally get on a regular basis, a standard pay raise. Now you might be getting into the point where you're getting penalized. You not only don't get a raise, you get just the opposite of that. So these teachers, anytime you float money out there, anytime that money is the reason for doing anything, whether it's a penalty, a monetary penalty, or a bonus, you are going to corrupt a system. And that's what happened. The educational system, which is not in the Constitution for the federal government to have anything to do with, But the education system was fully corrupted based on money, bonuses, potential penalties, and whatnot. Why am I saying all of this? Because that's when teachers realized I got to do what I got to do to pay my family, or excuse me, to feed my family. I need to make whatever pay I need to do whatever I need to do in order for that to happen. I need to put clothes on my kids' backs. How am I going to get these kids in school to be more teachable and to learn how to pass these tests? Oh, I know. I need to say they have ADHD or they're problem children, let their parents know, and tell their parents that they need to get them a prescription for a mood altering drug to slow them down, to make them more teachable, whatever. I may be wrong. I'm not going to say all of these drugs, but it may be all of these drugs. But let me say almost all of these drugs have the number one side effects of being suicidal, homicidal, manic, and depressive. Those are horrible, horrible side effects to throw on top of a teenage kid already struggling with raging hormones, male or female. You talk about storm. That's what we've got here. Again, like I state in my book, and I hate to keep referring to the book, but it's all in here. I was raised, you hold yourself accountable for your own actions. I don't care how good or bad your actions are. I don't care how much of an impact or effect somebody else has on you. You are still responsible for your own actions. So by no means am I saying that it was a broken home's fault or a teacher's fault for making a kid get medicated who shouldn't have been medicated, or for somebody who's bullying a kid. I'm not saying that the child who goes and shoots a bunch of people in a school should not be held accountable. They absolutely should. I'm not cutting them any slack. But in many cases, these children did not have a say-so before all those things took place. Certainly, a child didn't have a choice in being sexually abused, physically abused, or emotionally abused at home, right? The child didn't have any effect on that. They could not control that. The child, in many cases, I know they sometimes may have a hand in it, but the child certainly had no effect on parents splitting up. Usually, kids, I know that's a component that can certainly make marriage tough. But yeah, the kid's not the reason for most divorces out there. So the kid didn't have a say in that. The kid is not one of the parents who could say, I'm going to work harder at this marriage. If the spouses agree that they don't want to be married anymore, they split up. It doesn't matter what the kid wants them to do. They're going to make their own decision to split up. So the child doesn't have a say in that also. As far as going to school and not doing well on tests, yeah, the child probably could think a little bit more or try a little bit harder, but let's face it, they're kids. They're kids growing up. There's crazy stuff happening to them, especially in today's world with young people. The sad thing is the kids don't usually have a choice in being placed on these psychotropic drugs. The child usually doesn't have any say-so in that. And in many cases, the parents don't even question the doctors as to what the major side effects are and how long does my kid need to take this and when can he get off and what do I need to be on the lookout for problems with my child if he's having bad side effects. So a child usually doesn't even have any say in that on the medication. And as far as getting bullied, yeah, obviously a kid does not make the decision to be bullied. So the three components that I look at as being the major components as far as commonalities in rampage killers, mass shooters, school shooters, whatever, the child didn't have a choice in that. Again, I hold them accountable for the actions that they put forth going forward whenever they hurt somebody, harm somebody, shoot somebody, whatever. But they didn't have a whole lot of input leading up to that, which is sad. Again, we're holding the kid accountable for his actions because we're expecting that kid to be strong, like a lot of us had to do growing up. A lot of you out there, same thing. We all had our challenges. I don't think any of us on here weren't met with some form of a challenge growing up. No one had the perfect childhood. No, I don't care who says they did. No one had the perfect childhood. at some level, you had different challenges. You know, you look at the people in the gated communities thinking, oh, they must have it great. You know, they have their own challenges there too. They may not be missing a meal. They may not need anything financially or materialistically, but they have their own challenges, just like the poor kid does, just different levels of challenges. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to point out here is that even though we should always hold the person accountable, it feels unfair to a certain degree to hold a kid accountable for something that he didn't have a hand in being built up to. I named the book How to Make a Monster. If we're making these monsters, we as adults are making these monsters, these young monsters as they grow older and evolve and turn into, young kids and teenagers and young adults. They go perform these heinous tragedies, these acts. And if we look back on them, someone else made a decision every step of the way that caused problems in these kids' lives. And it sounds like these parents, in this case, Ethan's parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, may have had a hand in that. We're hearing that it was a 6-hour. I don't know the exact model. I've heard 220. I've heard 320. So who knows? 9 millimeters, what it was. Excuse me. This may be one of those, you hear about, those of you that don't know, my son has special needs, so I don't have conversations with my son like many of you can, and most people can. So the kind of conversation or the thing that I'm about to say doesn't really apply to me because my son doesn't have that independent thought like you and I do. But you know how you hear a lot of people say that you want to be, how is it, a friend to your child, but you don't want to be your child's friend necessarily because you have to be their parent. You can't be your kid's best friend. I guess you could be one of their best friends, but you can't be their only best friend because at some point you have to make difficult decisions and be their parent. There's times when you have to say no when you wouldn't say no to your best friend, but you have to say no to your kid or discipline them, whatever. There are things you got to do, right? If these parents, it sounds like, let me read this to you and you make up your own mind. I think you'll see where I'm going with this. According to a testimony from Oakland County, Lieutenant Tim Willis announced in court that James and Jennifer met with Ethan. Ethan is the son. James and Jennifer are the parents and Ethan is the son. James and Jennifer met with Ethan and school leaders on Tuesday morning. The parents left the school while Ethan was allowed to go to class. This was Tuesday when the shooting actually took place. A few short hours later, Ethan is accused of walking out of a bathroom and he started shooting. As news started to break, the investigators said James and Jennifer, the parents, both took actions that indicate they knew something could have happened. At 1:22 p.m., 30 minutes after the first 911 call was placed, Willis stated that Jennifer, the mom, texted her son the following message: "Ethan, don't do it." The mom texted the son, "Ethan, don't do it." At 1:37 p.m., Willis said that James, the father, went home, searched for his 6-hour, and then called 911 to report the missing gun. On the 911 call, he said he believed his son was the shooter. Willis said the gun was stored unlocked in a parent's bedroom and that James had bought the gun, the father had bought the gun on Friday. With the mom texting the son after their meeting at the school saying, "Ethan, don't do it," that kind of blows my mind. Because if she is referring to a shooting, now this was at 1:22, 1:37, which was 15 minutes later, is when the dad called 911 to say that his gun was missing. So assuming that the mom at 1:22, the reason why she said, "Ethan, don't do it," is because they realized the gun was missing at that point. And she's texting her son to tell him not to shoot the school up. I'm blown away at that. I am absolutely blown away that the mother would text the son, text him, not call him, not call the authorities. She knew something was up with the son. She apparently knew that there was the potential of him shooting somebody or some people, because when they found the gun missing, they automatically assumed that he might shoot somebody. So she was texting him to say, don't do it. But she texted him. If I'm at a point where there is a life-altering event that might be taking place, I'm not going to text the person who I think is responsible for carrying that event out. Are you kidding me? You do not text somebody, don't do it, when you think they're going to kill a bunch of children in school. Now, I don't care if she thought that Ethan had a beef with one person, one teacher, or the whole school. If she jumped to the conclusion that he may murder somebody, so she texts him, don't do it, once they find the firearm missing, that is not a textable message. That is not something you convey through a text and hope that the kid's phone dings and he goes, oh, mom said don't do it. Okay. You call that kid. If nothing else, the dad gets on the phone with the school, law enforcement, whoever, excuse me, and the mom calls the kid in hopes of getting the kid on the phone and stalling him, if nothing else. Ethan, what are you going to do? Ethan, look, don't do it. Stay on the phone with mom for a minute. Look, do you realize what's going to happen to you? You know, the police are going to shoot you. They're going to split your head open. You know, or you're going to go to prison for the rest of your life. They're going to rape you in prison. You know what I mean? Just, my God, something. Again, dad should have been on the phone with law enforcement or the school or both. And mom should have been on the phone with Ethan, trying to talk him down. If she didn't think she could talk him down, again, at least stalling him. You know, buying time until somebody could find where he was within that school and stop him from whatever he was doing. But she texted him. What an absolutely stupid move. So now the kid carries out the murders, kills these people, wounds a bunch of other people, and now the parents are on the run because they were going to be charged for involuntary manslaughter. Reports, of course, again, are that the gun was not locked up. So the parents, if you remember, this is Michigan, this Democrat-run state, very anti-gun state as far as the leadership goes. The parents are not going to cut any slack in that state. This is the thing that who reported this? This is Fox 29. Not locally down here. We have a Fox 29 affiliate down here. This might be Philadelphia, Fox 29. News media can screw up things so bad. This statement here blew my mind. When it said that the dad purchased the firearm, it said the gun was stored unlocked in the parents' bedroom and that James had bought the gun on Friday, November 26th at Acme Shooting Goods in Oxford. Willis said that Ethan was with him when he purchased the gun. Here we go. Listen to this. McDonald said Michigan laws allow minors to be present when a licensed carrier purchases a gun. Here we go again with the stigma. This is the news media asking a stupid question, something that they felt like was important enough for them to print. They printed this. Michigan law allows minors to be present when a licensed carrier purchases a firearm. No, you know the word I want to say. No kidding. Really? A minor can be with an adult when they purchase a car, when they purchase a steak knife, when they purchase a butcher knife, when they purchase a bow and arrow, when they purchase a hammer, when they purchase beer. All these things, a minor can actually be with them. And you thought it was important enough to ask, hey, just curious before I write my story, but is it legal for a minor to be with an adult when they purchase a firearm? It's a freaking firearm. Are you people that scared? Have you been that brainwashed as a journalist, to where you thought for a minute that you had to print this because you thought there was a possibility that a minor could not be with an adult when they purchased a firearm? What the hell? If you thought that, then somebody has been successful in creating this negative stigma towards guns more so than I ever thought was possible. I did not know that grown-ass people were that stupid to think that there might be a possibility that maybe it's not legal for a young person to be with a perfectly legal non-felon while they purchase a firearm. Are you kidding me? You used to could buy firearms at Sears. You could buy them in the mail. You can buy a firearm at Academy. You can buy a firearm at, used to could, at least I don't know if you can anymore, at Walmart. There's full of kids. Sorry, guys. I'm having a bad signal issue. Let me repeat this. The very fact that this person or anybody thought that this was an important enough line to print tells me that we are headed down a crazy road. I want you to see this. Right where my finger is. What I have circled. Read that. Absolutely blows my mind. Absolutely. McDonald said Michigan laws allow minors to be present when a licensed carrier purchases a gun. That blows my absolute mind. There are days, and today is one of them after reading that, where I thank big fat baby Jesus with his balled up fist and his little tuxedo shirt on for letting me be born in the freaking deep South. Thank God for letting me be born in a freaking red state in South Louisiana where I don't have to listen to dumb crap like this, like what's being said in Michigan by these dipshit journalists up there. I don't know. I would have to move out into the middle of nowhere if I was fed this kind of crap on a daily basis and had to listen to that stuff. Blows my mind. I read that 3 or 4 times thinking, I've got to be reading that wrong. There's no way this person is this stupid. Anyway, I hate to keep going on and on about that because the bigger story is the fact that the parents may be somewhat like enablers for this kid who shot these other kids at the school. But I can't ignore that fact that we have stooped to the level of stupidity that we feel the need to put stuff like that in print these days. Unbelievable. That's pretty much it for my rants. I'm rolling on over here. Hey, I do want to remind you guys we have. Let's see. Next, I'm gonna do 2 drawings in a row. For those of you who purchased my book, next Friday we are giving away the Vortex Red Dot. Anyone who has purchased one of my books from the day they got released now or until that day, the next Friday when I do the drawing, anyone who's purchased a book is entered. The the Vortex Red Dot I'll be giving away, as well as a few more of my Legally Armed America Mission First Tactical magazines. Be giving some of those away. I have some Legally Armed America caps, a couple of t-shirts. By the way, if you have not seen my Super Spreader t-shirt, go to ballisticink.com, or I will try to take the link. That's what I'll do. After this video is over with, I'll grab the link to my Super Spreader t-shirt and put it in the description down below for this particular video. My Super Spreader t-shirt I put out last Christmas. And all it is it's a crazy, crazy, crazy looking Santa Claus in a sled, like a hot rod sled with a bag of toys, and toys are flying everywhere. And he's got this maniacal look on his face, and it says Super Spreader above him and his sleigh. So that I sold a ton of those shirts last Christmas. I'll post a link down below. That's my favorite Christmas shirt. It's probably one of my favorite shirts, period. So I'll post a link for that as well so you guys can take a look at it. But yeah, I will be giving away a lot of things, including the shirts. If you have not purchased a copy of my book, How to Make a Monster, go buy it now. You still, I mean, there's no time limit up until, I mean, you could buy it 5 minutes until I do the drawing, because whenever I do the drawing, I'm going out to the database that's updated live. So if you're buying the book 5 minutes before we do the drawing, that name is going to electronically be thrown right into the basket. It's not like it's a paper basket that I'm pulling names out of. It's a digital basket that I'm randomly choosing from. So yeah, that's that. If go buy it, go get the book. You can get paperback, you can get hardcover, doesn't matter which one. Go to howtomakeamonster.com. You can get it on Amazon too. Go buy the book if you want to on howtomakeamonster.com instead. Save $1. It's $1 more on Amazon because of their fee, the money they want to keep. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, my margins are so small in that I'm hardly making anything off of the book. So I had to bump the price up $1 to account for. I'm still making less off of Amazon because their fee is more than $1 a book, but I did bump the book price up $1. Many of you on here have already purchased it. Yes, Derek, I know you bought it. A bunch of you on here actually bought. I recognize the names. I'm signing as many of them as I can. If you put what you want me to sign, I will go into the inside of the book before it ships out. Susan is shipping these out for me, so she'll put all the book orders together for me with what I need to put it right in the book. I sign the books and I send them out. So, yeah, if you want one, grab one. We will be giving away. This is the thing. That Vortex red dot is next week. The following week, I'm going to be giving away a 22 long rifle pump rifle. Pretty cool little gun. It is a Rossi. It's a Rossi. It's very much like a Winchester Pump 22 that I grew up with, but this one is made by Rossi. But it looks just like the old Winchester ones from back in the 70s and 80s and 90s. So yeah, you'll want to check that out. But yeah, guys, go grab the book if you get a chance. If you don't, I understand. It's fine. But it's a great Christmas gift. I do not have supply chain issues. I have a bundle of books that I bought. We sold out twice already, so I had to buy a third bundle of books. So I bought plenty of them getting ready for the Christmas holidays. Yeah, guys. Hey, I want to thank a couple of people real quick. Spartan Armor, those guys do a lot for me. Advanced Warrior Solutions does a lot for me as well. Courage CBD does a lot for me. And so does Dirty Boar Lubricant, Gun Lube. All those guys are really good to me. If you'll look over here, I don't know if you can see it, but you'll see some equipment over here. I'm working on ironing out all the details for my podcast. I am revisiting, reimagining, restarting the high capacity podcast that I've done pieces of over the years, just never consistently put them out. I'm hoping to have the high capacity podcast out every single Monday, once a week, every single week. So I'm working on that here in the studio as well. You'll be seeing a lot more videos from me. Again, the podcast. So pretty much got the studio completed here. There's a lot of little fine tuning, like anything else. Kind of like if you move in a new house, you have things got to find their place and all that. And I don't have the place for everything yet, but I'm working on it. But it is affording me, freeing up more of my time to where I can do a little bit more actual putting content out. And that's what I'm excited about, because that's what I really like to do. I'm going to move this camera over a little bit, and I'm going to read some of your comments yet. Let's see. And I did see somebody in here that I know I need to thank. Ronald Hotboy. Ronald made a donation to me during the video. Says, let's eliminate all swimming pools because my cousin drowned in one. Yeah, that makes a great point. Thank you for the donation. Again, guys, I don't ever expect that. But thank you for doing that. It means a lot to me. I'm very humbled when somebody does that, and I'm very gracious. I don't know what to say. I'm not a good acceptor of gifts or compliments, so I really do appreciate that. Low Klondike Outdoors says, Bronco come in yet? No, my Bronco should be in, I think, next Thursday. Ford tells me it's going to be a couple of weeks away. But I contacted my friend at the local Ford dealership where the Bronco is being shipped to, and he shows that delivery should make it to them by next Thursday, which means I'm sure I can pick it up Thursday or Friday. Friday, I'm sure by the latest. So yeah, I should be having my Bronco by the time we have a live stream next week. I should have my Bronco by then. Let's see here. Let me see. I'm reading some of you guys' comments. You guys think a lot the way I do. I'm just reading a lot of your comments, your conversations amongst yourselves, and I agree with just about everything you guys say. Again, gun people just have a knack for common sense. I don't know what it is, and I'm not trying to be smart or sarcastic about it, but I remember one of my very, very good friends. It's been 10, maybe 15 years ago, and I never will forget him saying that. This is a smart guy now. I'm not going to say why he's so smart because he might be on here and I don't want to blow his head up, but this is a super smart person. I remember him telling me, and he wasn't joking when he said this, that he said, I think liberalism is a mental disorder. He said, because if you look at, and I'm not talking about political parties here. This is not political party speak here. I have massive disdain for many in the Republican Party. So don't confuse conservative, liberal with Republican, Democrat. That is absolutely not what I'm saying. But if you look at people who think conservatively, regardless of political party, and people who think in a liberal sense, or the new term, progressive, people shape their thoughts on the conservative side with common sense. They look at fairness. They look at a certain equality, not equity. There's a difference. Equality. Do you have the same right to make the same amount of money as me? Yes. But you're going to be expected to do the same amount of work. And you're going to be expected to do that work as good as I do if you want to make the same money I make doing that job. No one in the same job should make the same amount of money as everyone else if they're not doing it just as good, just as often, and trying just as hard. I don't care what diplomas you have hanging on your wall. That's just proof that you went to school. That's not proof that you're smart. So I truly, when he told me that he thought liberalism was a mental disorder, and he said, I'm not joking. I really believe that. We sat and talked about it for a while, and I was like, he's right. He's absolutely right. They absolutely have a screw loose. How you can think, for instance, that for one, and I'm not going to get into this, I'm not even going to go into the abortion thing, because I don't see how anybody can think that killing a human being that just hasn't been born yet is okay. But using their same, I guess, science denying that they do, how in the world can you say that there's multiple genders out there when there's literally physical proof? How in the world can you sit there and justify in your mind that if you think something a certain way, then it must be? Because if that were the case, we would all think that we were rich. We would all think that we were smart. We would all think that we were successful and just be that. It doesn't work like that. You either are born a certain way or you work to get there. You don't just imagine something and it becomes that something. That is a twisted level of logic. And I look, again, looking at the conservative side, so many people who I know that are just good, genuinely good people, they are looking at things in terms of absolute fairness. And what's good for you is good for me. What's good for me is good for you. You're not entitled to anything more than I'm entitled to. That's kind of why some conservative people have a real problem with people sitting on their butts at home, not doing anything. You have perfectly able-bodied people, in many cases more able-bodied than some of us, that could go out and have any job they could want. But they don't, because they're too lazy. And they get mad whenever we call them on it. Perfectly able-bodied people. I've worked with people in union environments before. I'm not going to not get into the union issue, but I had to tell a union person one time, I don't need your union representation. I'll never need your protection. I work way too hard. I'll never be in a bind. Oh, you never know. No, I do. I do. I know that I will never need your help. I can burn this bridge. I know that I don't ever, ever, ever. I know I'll never need your help. This bridge is burnt. Consider it burnt now. I don't want your help. And I never did. I was there at this company for 11 years. Went up the ladder constantly because I worked my butt off. And I didn't expect things to be given to me. And that's part of the problem, that we've got a certain chunk of people out there who are bitter and mad at the world because they're too lazy to work for anything, so they demand it be given to them. Guys, I see somebody keeps asking me what my everyday carry is. It depends. This is probably not the best advice I'm going to give you, but I do rotate my everyday carries out depending on what time of year it is. During the summer, I wear much smaller everyday carries. Right now, it's actually warm down here in South Louisiana, and I am wearing a 6-hour P365. So winter months, whenever I can bundle up a little bit more, I'm typically going to wear something about the size of a Glock 19, not specifically a Glock 19. It may be, but I'm usually going to carry a striker fired, and a striker fired that does not have a manual safety. I'm just not a fan of that on a striker on a carry weapon. And a lot of times, if I'm going to carry, I'll rotate out my carry guns, especially in the summertime, because of sweat. I'll take a gun sometimes. Now, there's been times I'll leave my firearm, broken down, but in like a vat of a cleaner or something like that, or I'll spray them down with a lubricant. Again, I use the Dirty Bore lubricant. I'll just coat them with it and let them sit. Let them sit, let it penetrate into that finish or whatever. Clean it off in a couple of days and put it back into my rotation. I don't suggest rotating out firearms that have way different controls. You don't want some with safeties, some without safeties. You don't want the controls to be, I wouldn't rotate between a Glock and a 1911. It's either one or the other, things like that. I think that it's really important that you train with what you are going to have to go with, and you allow that muscle memory to stay intact, and don't try to trip up your own muscle memory. If you're training with a particular gun, that should be the type of firearm that you are constantly going to be carrying, so that you can rely on that muscle memory to come through whenever you need it. And if you're throwing curveballs at your muscle memory, you're screwing up bad. That split second that you have to look down at your weapon to figure out what's what may be that split second that, now your kids don't have a dad. But anyway, yes, winter months, hasn't been cold enough down here yet for me to start carrying a mid-size or a full-size yet. But I'm trying to think. I do have a bronze-colored Glock 19 that I carried a lot last year. Oh, I have a 6-hour P320X that I'm real fond of carrying. And what was it? There was a third one in the mix last year. Might have been, was it? Oh, yes, it was one of the Polymer 80 guns. I don't think it was the Polymer 80 brand, but I think Polymer 80 had made it for somebody. Gosh, who was it? Faxon Firearms. I really liked the Polymer 80 the 80% that they made and they put out under the facts and name, but it's essentially a polymer 80. Strike Industries has a new Strike 80 out, and I'm hoping to get my hands on one really soon. That's one I'll most likely carry. I like the grip angle. I like the look of them. I like the texturing. A lot of cool components on that Strike 80. So as soon as I build mine, I will most likely carry that this winter as well. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to drink me a couple more beers later tonight. I'm going to go visit my little boy a little bit. I see him out playing out in the yard right now. Look for some new videos from me. Hey, guys, if you have not seen those latest videos from me on the Alec Baldwin stuff, go take a look at them. One is a reaction video that I did watching the Alec Baldwin interview, and the other one is how a single action revolver works, to kind of understand better what Baldwin is saying happened and how you can realize it actually didn't happen that way. So go check that video out as well. Guys, thank you so much. Those of you that have purchased one of my books, How to Make a Monster, thank you so much. It's very humbling to me that you guys have purchased this book. I really put a lot of work into this book, and the fact that people want to read it is super duper humbling to me. I will never be on the New York Times best-selling list, because this is not the type of book that anybody in any kind of position of power is ever going to let be popular. I call out the anti-gun groups. I call out the politicians. I call out the school system. I call out doctors. I call out teachers. I call out parents. This book is way too polarizing. As a collective group, no one is ever gonna, as a whole, latch onto this book. So that'll never be on a New York Times best-selling list. So the fact that you guys are buying it out there is encouraging enough to me, and a reward enough to me for all the hard work that I put into it, because it was a lot of work. I do intend on putting another book out next year in 2022. I have a couple of different topics that I'm looking at. I just want it to be something that is, interesting to everybody. The feedback that I've gotten on this book is that it's interesting, and the facts and the data that I include in there kind of keep people reading it and all that. So I'm going to try to make a book the same way this coming year. So, but again, go to howtomakeamonster.com. Again, howtomakeamonster.com, and I appreciate that, guys. Folks, have a great weekend. As I always say, if you're going to go have a drink tonight, please do it at home safely. Drink in moderation, of course. Everybody has their own definition of what moderation is. If you're going somewhere, please get a designated driver. Drive with somebody else. Please don't drink and drive, because my ultimate goal is to see all of you guys back here next Friday night when we give away that Vortex Red Dot for everyone who has purchased a copy of my book, How to Make a Monster. Guys, we'll see you next Friday night. Have a safe, wonderful weekend. If you go to the range, please be safe, guys. Again, want to see you back here next week.